We have been taught to look at the lights. Since the first human looked upward and wondered, our entire understanding of the universe has been built on a fundamental lie. We look at the night sky and see a tapestry of stars, a luminous archipelago of suns separated by vast, empty voids. We assume that where there is no light, there is nothing. We have spent centuries mapping the candles in the dark, convinced that the candles are the only things in the room. But the room is not empty. In fact, the room is crowded. For every star you see twinkling in the distance, there are 20 worlds you will never see. There are trillions of them. Dark, starless, and untethered, these are the rogue planets. They are the dominant planetary population of the Milky Way, outnumbering the stars by a factor that defies our previous models of the cosmos. They drift through the interstellar silence at tens of kilometers per second, invisible to every telescope we have ever built. They are the ghosts of the galaxy, and they are not just out there in the deep reaches of space. One of them is likely passing through our own backyard right now. It has always been here, a silent, invisible titan drifting through the outer edges of our solar system, and we are perfectly, terrifyingly blind to it. This is not a theory about a distant anomaly. This is a paradigm shift in how we define the galaxy. We have lived in a state of observational bias, a lie of the bright, where we only acknowledge what radiates. But as our technology catches up to the shadows, we are realizing that the empty space between the stars is actually the most crowded part of the universe. The galaxy is not a collection of star systems. It is a dark ocean of drifting worlds, and the stars are merely the foam on the waves. To understand the scale of this invisible ocean, we have to look at the math, and the numbers are chilling. In 2011, Takahiro Sumi at Osaka University published data that fundamentally broke our models. Using gravitational microlensing, Sumi's team realized that for every star in the Milky Way, there are at least 2 rogue planets the size of Jupiter. But as Caltech's David Stevenson suggested years earlier, even that was just the beginning of the shadow. But even that was an underestimate. Recent surveys, including data from the 2023 microlensing missions, have pushed that ratio to staggering new heights. We now believe there are roughly 20 rogue planets for every single star in our galaxy. If there are 400 billion stars in the Milky Way, that means there are 8 trillion starless worlds wandering the dark. They are everywhere. They fill the gaps between the constellations. They are the connective tissue of the galaxy, moving in silence, carrying the heat of their formation in their cores, shielded by thick atmospheres of hydrogen and helium that keep them warm in a sub-zero void. Why the blindness? Because the void is a perfect cloak. A planet isn't a star. It doesn't scream. It whispers. It doesn't glow. It hides. To see a world, you need a sun to light the way. Without one, a planet is just an invisible wall moving through the night. Once a rogue planet has spent a few 100 million years in the interstellar dark, it cools to near ambient background temperatures, roughly 3 degrees above absolute zero. At that temperature, it is physically cloaked. It becomes a black object against a black background. It is an invisible wall moving through the night. The only way we find them is through a trick of Einstein's relativity called gravitational microlensing. Because these planets have mass, they warp the fabric of spacetime around them. When a rogue planet passes directly in front of a distant background star, its gravity acts like a magnifying glass. For a few brief hours or days, the light from that distant star spikes in brightness as the invisible planet focuses the rays toward Earth. It is a cosmic alignment that happens once in a million years for any given star. We only see them when they step into the light of something else, and then they vanish back into the darkness forever. We catch a glimpse of a shadow, and then the shadow is gone. But where did they come from? How does a world find itself cast into the eternal night? The answer is a story of planetary violence. Most rogue planets were not born in the dark. They were made there. They began their lives in the chaotic nursery of a young solar system, much like our own. In the early stages of planetary formation, gravity is a weapon. Giant planets like Jupiter and Saturn engage in a gravitational tug-of-war, shifting their orbits and flinging smaller worlds around like marbles. This is called planet-planet scattering. If a young planet gets too close to a gas giant, the resulting gravitational kick can be so powerful that the planet achieves escape velocity. It is physically ripped away from its parent star and hurled into the interstellar void at thousands of miles per hour. It is a planetary eviction. In a matter of years, the sun that gave it life shrinks to a tiny point of light and then disappears entirely. The planet is cast out into a billion-year frost, destined to wander the galaxy until the stars themselves burn out. This happened in our own solar system. Simulations suggest that the early sun may have had a fifth gas giant, a sibling to Neptune, that was kicked out during the late heavy bombardment. Somewhere out there, our lost brother is drifting in the dark, a silent orphan of the sun. However, recent discoveries by the James Webb Space Telescope have introduced a new, even more disturbing possibility. In the Orion Nebula, the JWST found something that shouldn't exist: jumbos, Jupiter-mass binary objects. These are pairs of Jupiter-sized planets drifting together in the void, orbiting each other without a star. This discovery broke our models. If rogue planets are created by being kicked out of solar systems, they should be alone. The violence of an ejection would tear a binary pair apart. The existence of jumbos suggests that many rogue planets were never part of a solar system at all. They may have formed directly from the collapse of small gas clouds, just like stars do, but without enough mass to ignite. They are failed stars that are too small to be suns, but too large to be ignored. This means the dark is not just filled with refugees, it is filled with a primary population of worlds that have never known the warmth of a sun. They were born in the dark, and they will die in the dark. This brings us to the most unsettling realization of all: the local threat. If the galaxy is as crowded as the data suggests, then the empty space of our own solar system is not empty. Our sun's gravitational influence extends far beyond the orbit of Pluto, out into the Oort cloud, a gargantuan sphere of icy debris that reaches up to 100,000 astronomical units away. This is our backyard. And based on the statistical density of rogue planets in the galactic disk, it is a mathematical certainty that at least one rogue planet is currently passing through the Oort cloud. We think of the solar system as a closed circuit, a protected bubble. But the Oort cloud is porous. It is a vast, silent wilderness that covers trillions of miles. A rogue planet drifting through that region would be completely undetectable. It wouldn't reflect enough sunlight to be seen by our most powerful telescopes. It wouldn't have a visible transit. It would simply be a dark mass moving through the ice, and it wouldn't be the first time. In 2013, astronomers discovered Schultz's star, a small red dwarf that passed through our Oort cloud only 70,000 years ago. Our ancestors, the early humans, were walking the Earth when a second sun entered our territory. If a star can pass through our backyard unnoticed until we find its trail millennia later, imagine how many rogue planets have done the same. They are smaller, darker, and far more numerous. Statistical models suggest that an interstellar object the size of Mars passes through our inner solar system every few million years. but objects the size of Jupiter pass through the Oort cloud constantly. One is likely there right now. It has been there for thousands of years, slowly carving its way through the outer shell of our home. We cannot see it, but we can feel its fingerprints. For years, astronomers have been hunting for Planet 9, a theoretical massive world in the outer solar system that explains the strange, clustered orbits of Kuiper Belt objects. We have searched the skies for a planet bound to our sun, but we have found nothing. Some scientists are now beginning to ask a more haunting question. What if the gravitational disturbance we're seeing isn't coming from a ninth planet? What if it's the wake of a rogue planet passing through? A ghost ship in the night, tugging on the edges of our world as it passes by, leaving a trail of orbital chaos that we are only just beginning to measure. The horror of the rogue planet is not that it might collide with Earth. The galaxy is too big for that to be a likely threat. The horror is the silence. It is the realization that we are surrounded by an invisible majority. We have spent our entire history believing we live in a neighborhood of lights, when in reality, we are a single campfire in a dark, crowded forest. We are the anomaly. The normal state of a planet in this galaxy is to be alone, starless, and frozen. Imagine the surface of such a world. If you were to stand there, the first thing you'd notice isn't the cold, it's the weight. On a rogue gas giant, your body would feel heavy, crushed by a gravity that doesn't care about your survival. You would look up into a sky of absolute, suffocating black. No day, no night. Just a billion-year frost where the stars are distant, taunting pinpricks. But beneath the surface, there could be life. Many of these rogue planets are gas giants with moons, or rocky worlds with thick atmospheres. Without a sun, their surfaces are frozen, but their cores are still hot with the radioactive decay of their birth. This internal heat, trapped by miles of ice or high-pressure gas, could create subsurface oceans that remain liquid for billions of years. There could be trillions of oceans in the dark, teeming with life that has no concept of a sun, no concept of light, and no concept of an outside. They would live in a universe of heat and pressure, tucked away in the belly of a wandering titan. While we look at the stars searching for neighbors, the most common form of life in the universe might be drifting in the voids between them, completely isolated from the rest of the cosmos. But as much as we might find comfort in the idea of life in the dark, we cannot escape the existential weight of what these planets represent. They are a reminder that the universe is not designed for us to see it. Our eyes evolved to perceive a tiny fraction of the electromagnetic spectrum, fueled by the radiation of a nearby G-type star. We are biologically tuned to the lie of the bright. We see the stars because they scream into the void, but the void itself is filled with the whispers of trillions of worlds that do not care to be seen. As you watch this, a world larger than Earth is moving through the darkness. It has no name. It has no history that we will ever record. It is a dark sphere of rock and iron, or a swirling ball of hydrogen, moving with a purpose dictated by the gravity of the galactic center. It is passing through the Oort cloud. It is nudging comets, shifting the balance of icy rocks that have sat undisturbed for eons. It is a silent intruder in our sanctuary. We are currently building the next generation of eyes to find them. The Vera C. Rubin Observatory and the Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope are designed specifically to hunt for these shadows. They will use wide-field surveys and high-cadence imaging to catch the fleeting flickers of microlensing events. We are about to map the dark. And when we do, our map of the galaxy will change forever. The bright dots of the constellations will become secondary to the vast, teeming clouds of rogue worlds that fill the spaces between them. we will find that the solar system is not an island, but a clearing in a dense thicket. We will find that the backyard we thought we knew is occupied by giants we never invited. And we will have to reckon with the fact that for all our telescopes and all our satellites, we are still just children sitting by a fire, unaware of the things moving in the shadows just beyond the light. The rogue planet in our Oort cloud isn't coming for us. It doesn't have to. It is simply a part of the true fabric of the Milky Way, a dark, cold, and crowded reality that we are only just beginning to accept. The galaxy is not what we thought it was. It is darker, it is heavier, and it is much, much fuller than we ever dared to imagine. We used to look at the gaps between the stars and see nothingness. Now, we look at those gaps and realize we are looking at the most populated regions of the universe. The lights are the exception. The darkness is the rule. And in that darkness, the wanderers are moving, invisible and infinite, passing through our backyard without a sound, leaving us alone in our small, fragile circle of light. We have been looking at the candles. It's time we started looking at the room, because the room is not empty, and we are not as alone as we thought. We are just the only ones with the lights on. As our understanding of these starless worlds grows, so does our sense of cosmic vulnerability. We have long viewed the stability of our solar system as a permanent fixture, a clockwork mechanism that has ticked reliably for 4.5 billion years. But the presence of rogue planets suggests that this stability is a localized miracle. The interstellar medium is a shooting gallery of planetary mass projectiles. While the odds of a direct hit are astronomical, the gravitational influence of these wanderers is a constant, subtle pressure on the architecture of our home. Every rogue planet that passes through our Oort cloud acts as a gravitational stirrer, potentially nudging long-period comets into the inner solar system. We look at the craters on the Moon and the scars on Mars, and we see the history of impacts. We have always blamed these on the random debris of our own system's birth. But how many of those impacts were triggered by a dark visitor? How many extinction events on Earth were the indirect result of a rogue planet passing through the outer reaches of the Sun's influence, a silent assassin that never even entered our sight? The research into jumbos and the 20-to-1 ratio of rogues to stars forces us to reevaluate the very definition of a star system. Perhaps the Sun is not a lonely monarch ruling over a small family of planets. Perhaps the Sun is just one of many gravitational anchors in a much larger, much more complex ecosystem of mass. We are beginning to see the galaxy as a fluid, dynamic environment where planets are not fixed assets but migratory participants. This realization brings us to a final, haunting thought. If rogue planets are the most common type of world, and if many of them possess the ingredients for life, internal heat, liquid water, and chemical protection, then the Goldilocks zone is a myth. We have been taught that life requires a star, a specific distance, and a specific temperature. But the rogue planets suggest that life can exist anywhere there is mass and time. The universe may be teeming with life that has never seen a sunrise, life that evolved in the eternal, crushing dark of a starless world. If this is true, then we are the outliers. We are the strange ones, living on the surface of a rock, exposed to the radiation of a violent star, dependent on a fragile atmosphere and a narrow range of temperatures. The true inhabitants of the galaxy, the ones who represent the majority of life, might be the ones drifting in the deep, shielded by miles of ice, wandering the interstellar voids in perfect, silent equilibrium. We look up at the stars and feel a sense of wonder, but we should also feel a sense of humility. The stars are the loud, bright and temporary features of the Milky Way. The rogue planets are the quiet, dark, and permanent ones. They were here before the stars formed, and they will be here long after the last sun has flickered out. They are the true masters of the void. And as we sit here, on our bright, warm, and vulnerable world, one of them is passing by. It is there, in the dark, a billion miles away, a shadow moving through the ice, a reminder that the universe is vast, invisible, and utterly indifferent to our presence. We have spent our lives looking at the lights, but the real story of the galaxy is written in the gaps, and the gaps are finally starting to speak.